Imagine waking up one day and realizing that people no longer value your time. The relationships in your life feel unbalanced. The respect you once had has slowly faded.
Your opinions carry less weight than before, and your presence is taken for granted. You feel drained, as if you're always available to others, but somehow still lonely, waiting for meaningful connections that never seem to form. Have you ever wondered why this happens? Why do some people command respect and attention, while others are overlooked and undervalued despite giving so much of themselves? Today we are going to expose a silent force that may be sabotaging your relationships, happiness, and self-worth without you even realizing it. This force is excessive availability, the habit of always being there for everyone, at any time, for any reason. It is a subtle, invisible trap that undermines your value, and the worst part is most people never break free from it. But you will, because by the end of this video, you will not only understand how being too available is harming your life, but you will also discover the most powerful way to break free. And trust me, the final insight is the most important of all, one that could be the key to unlocking relationships built on mutual respect, boundaries, and genuine connection. Excessive availability is one of the most destructive relationship patterns a person can develop. It does not always feel like a problem at first. In fact, it often disguises itself as kindness, helpfulness, or the illusion of being a good friend. But in reality, it is a slow poison. It keeps you in relationships that do not fulfill you. It allows others to dictate your time and energy. It convinces you that saying yes is the best option when deep down you know that boundaries are the only way forward. But where does this habit come from? Why do some people maintain healthy boundaries in life, while others remain constantly available, unable to say no when necessary? Philosophers have studied this phenomenon for centuries, and one of the most powerful explanations comes from Arthur Schopenhauer, the 19th century philosopher. He observed that humans naturally value what is scarce and difficult to obtain, while taking for granted what is always available. In one of his famous observations, Schopenhauer noted that wealth is like seawater. The more we drink, the thirstier we become. This principle applies perfectly to human attention. When we make ourselves constantly available, people begin to expect it, then demand it, and finally devalue it entirely. This belief seeps into our relationships, shaping how others perceive us and ultimately our reality. But people-pleasing is not the only cause of over-availability. In fact, one of the most dangerous causes is something far more subtle: fear. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to say yes to every request, even when you're already overwhelmed? The human brain is wired for social acceptance. In the past, this instinct kept our ancestors alive, ensuring they remained part of the protective group. But in the modern world, this survival mechanism often works against us. We become afraid of disappointment or rejection, even when it costs us our peace of mind. Days turn into weeks, weeks into years, and before we realize it, life has passed us by with little to show for all the time we've given away. This is the true danger of excessive availability. It does not feel like a threat. It does not come with alarms or warnings. Instead, it operates in silence. It whispers in your ear, telling you that you're being helpful, that you're needed and valued, that saying no would be selfish. But here is the brutal truth: your time is your most precious resource, and the longer you give it away freely, the less others will value not just your time, but you as a person. But let's take a step back and ask a deeper question. What is the real cost of being too available? What happens when we allow others to access our time and energy without limits? Carl Jung, the famous psychologist, provided insight into this question through his work on boundaries and the self. He argued that proper boundaries are essential for psychological health, and when we fail to establish them, we lose our sense of self, and nothing erodes self-worth more than excessive availability. Think about it. When was the last time you felt truly respected? Was it in a moment of saying yes to everything, being available at all hours and dropping everything for others? Or was it when you stood firm in your boundaries, valued your time, and pursued your own priorities? The truth is, respect is not found in availability, it is created through healthy boundaries. But here is the question that most people never ask themselves: if being too available is so harmful, why do we continue to do it? Why do we remain stuck even when we know we should be saying no? The answer may surprise you, and once you understand it, everything will change. Imagine being asked to help someone, knowing that saying yes will cost you valuable time, yet still agreeing. You tell yourself you're being kind, that they really need you, that you'll find time for yourself later. But later never comes. Requests keep piling up, and before you realize it, your own needs have been completely sidelined. This is the invisible force of excessive availability at work, and the reason so many people stay stuck in relationships that drain rather than fulfill them. But why do we allow this to happen? What is the hidden force that keeps us trapped in this pattern, even when we know that change is necessary? To answer this, we need to understand a concept known as the approval trap. At first glance, being helpful seems like a good thing. After all, who doesn't want to be seen as dependable and generous? But here is the paradox: the more available we become, the less others value what we offer. Approval feels good in the moment, but it often comes at the cost of long-term respect. Have you ever dropped everything to help someone, only to find they didn't truly appreciate your sacrifice? Have you remained in relationships where you give everything and receive little in return, simply because the thought of conflict felt overwhelming? This is the approval trap in action. It convinces you that being liked at all costs is better than being respected with boundaries. But the truth is, the greatest regrets in life are not the times we maintained healthy boundaries, but the years we spent being available to the wrong people. Psychologists have found that the human brain is wired to seek social approval. Our ancestors relied on group acceptance to survive, avoiding behaviors that could lead to rejection. But in the modern world, this instinct often backfires. Instead of protecting us, it holds us back. Instead of building relationships, we end up enabling dependency. But here is the harsh reality. Schopenhauer recognized, no one ever earned deep respect by being constantly available. Every person who has ever commanded genuine admiration had to set firm boundaries, prioritize their time, and occasionally say no. The difference between those who are respected and those who are taken for granted is not generosity, kindness, or helpfulness. It is the courage to establish and maintain boundaries. This brings us to one of the most important questions of all. How do you break free from the grip of over-availability? How do you stop saying yes and start saying no? One of the most powerful strategies comes from modern psychology, which introduces a simple yet highly effective technique called the pause principle. The rule is simple: when someone asks something of you, pause, take a breath and say, "Let me think about it." Do not give an immediate yes. Do not allow guilt to creep in. Take time to consider before your people-pleasing habit can respond automatically. This technique works because it interrupts the cycle of automatic agreement and gives you space to make a conscious choice. Another crucial strategy is to shift your focus from approval to self-respect. Many people say yes because they want to be liked, but the truth is external approval is unreliable. It comes and goes, and if you depend on it, you will always struggle to feel worthy. Instead, self-respect is what creates real change. Self-respect means honoring your own needs and time. It means making decisions based on your values, not others' expectations. William James, the pioneering psychologist, explained this perfectly. He said that self-esteem comes from small choices made consistently, not from grand gestures or constant sacrifice. If you improve your boundaries by just 1% every day, those tiny improvements compound, leading to extraordinary changes in how others treat you. The problem with excessive availability is that it works in the opposite direction. Small moments of saying yes when you mean no also compound, leading to a life of resentment. But here is something most people never consider. Over-availability is not just about big decisions. It shows up in small ways every single day. It is answering messages at midnight, the inability to enjoy solitude, the constant checking of notifications instead of focusing on what truly matters. Every moment of excessive availability reinforces the habit of self-neglect, making it harder to change. This is why self-awareness is crucial. You must begin to notice when and where you give too much in your life. Ask yourself, what are the requests I automatically accept? Where am I letting guilt dictate my choices? What would my life look like if I stopped being so available and started being more selective? But before we dive into the most powerful way to break free from over-availability, there is one more thing you need to understand, something that is keeping millions of people stuck in relationships they do not truly value. And once you realize what it is, you will never look at your availability the same way again. There is a hidden force behind excessive availability that most people never recognize, and it is one of the most powerful psychological barriers to setting boundaries. It is not guilt, kindness, or a desire to help. It is something far more deceptive: identity confusion. Identity confusion happens when you unconsciously define yourself by your usefulness to others rather than your inherent worth. It is the belief that I am only valuable when I'm helping, or my worth comes from being needed. And when you believe that your value comes from what you do for others, saying no feels impossible. Think about it. If you see yourself as the person who's always there for everyone, how likely are you to turn someone down? If you believe your value lies in being helpful, will you ever truly prioritize yourself? If you convince yourself that saying no makes you selfish, will you ever truly take control of your time? Your identity shapes your actions, and your actions shape how others treat you. This is why people remain stuck in cycles of overgiving, not because they cannot change, but because they do not believe they should change. Philosophers like Schopenhauer understood that our relationship with ourselves determines our relationships with others. Those with a dependent identity believe that their worth comes from external validation and usefulness to others. They avoid saying no, fearing rejection will make them worthless. In contrast, those with a secure identity believe that they have inherent value regardless of what they do for others. They set boundaries knowing that saying no is not a reflection of their kindness but an expression of self-respect. Now here is the critical insight: excessive availability thrives in a dependent identity. If you believe your value comes from being needed, you will never set the boundaries you deserve. But the moment you shift to a secure identity, when you realize that your worth is not determined by your usefulness, excessive availability loses its power over you. So how do you make this shift? How do you break free from the identity confusion that keeps you overly available? The answer lies in value-based boundaries. Psychologists explain that true change does not come from forcing yourself to say no. It comes from changing the way you see yourself. Instead of focusing on each individual request, focus on who you need to become. If you want to be a respected person, start acting like one. If you want to be valued, make decisions that a self-respecting person would make. Every boundary you set is a vote for the person you are becoming. This is why boundaries must come before respect. Most people believe they need to feel worthy before they set boundaries, but the truth is boundaries themselves create worth. When you set even the smallest boundary, you shift your identity. You start to see yourself differently, and once that shift happens, others begin to see you differently too. But there is one more layer to this. Excessive availability is not just about identity, it is also about emotional resistance. Many people remain stuck because setting boundaries triggers deep emotional discomfort. Maybe it is the fear of conflict, maybe it is the fear of not being liked, maybe it is the fear of not being needed anymore. Neuroscientists have discovered that the brain treats social rejection the same way it treats physical pain. When you consider saying no to someone, your brain perceives it as danger and activates the amygdala, the part responsible for fear and survival instincts. This is why setting boundaries often feels so difficult. Your brain is not trying to sabotage you, it is trying to protect you from rejection. But here is the key: you do not need to eliminate fear to set boundaries, you just need to set them anyway. Every time you set a boundary despite fear, you rewire your brain. You teach it that standing up for yourself is not a threat. You build what neuroscientists call emotional resilience, the ability to honor your needs even when it feels uncomfortable. And the more you do this, the more natural it becomes. So if excessive availability is rooted in identity, approval seeking and emotional resistance, what is the ultimate way to break free from it? The answer is simple, but most people never realize it, and once you do, everything changes. The ultimate way to break free from excessive availability is to embrace selective presence. Selective presence means fully accepting that your time has immense value. No more automatic yeses, no more guilt, no more sacrificing your needs for others. It means realizing that being unavailable sometimes is not just okay, it's necessary, and that every moment you give should be given consciously and intentionally. This is a difficult truth for many people to accept, because it eliminates every justification for overgiving. But it is also the most liberating truth you will ever embrace, because once you embrace selective presence, you reclaim your power. You stop being available for everything and start being present for what truly matters. But here is where most people go wrong. They believe setting boundaries means becoming cold or uncaring. They believe they need to choose between being kind and being respected. This is another trap. The truth is, boundaries create deeper connections, not shallower ones. Schopenhauer himself understood that true connection cannot exist without proper distance. He explained that like porcupines in the cold, humans need the right amount of space. Too close and we hurt each other, too far and we lose warmth, but at the perfect distance we find both warmth and respect. This is why people with strong boundaries often have the most meaningful relationships. They are not the ones who are always there for everyone. They are simply the ones who are fully present when they choose to be there. They give their time intentionally, learn from experience, and adjust their boundaries as needed. But what about letting people down? This is one of the biggest reasons people remain excessively available. They fear disappointing others so much that they would rather disappoint themselves than risk causing someone else discomfort. But here is what they do not realize. Saying no with kindness is not rejection, it is honesty, and honesty is the foundation of any meaningful relationship. As Schopenhauer noted, almost all of our sorrows spring out of our relations with other people, especially when those relations lack proper boundaries. This is the mindset of every respected person throughout history. They understand that saying no is not a reflection of their kindness or generosity. It is simply self-respect. It is preservation of energy for what truly matters. And the only true failure is abandoning yourself to please others. So how do you put all of this into action?
How do you finally break free from excessive availability and start living with proper boundaries and self-respect? First, eliminate the idea that you need to say yes to be valued. Your value does not come from your usefulness but from your inherent worth as a human being. Second, redefine your identity. Stop seeing yourself as the person who's always there for everyone or has always been that way. Your past patterns do not define your future. Decide today that you are a person of healthy boundaries, and then prove it with your behavior. Third, practice the power of delayed response. Many people say yes immediately because they believe they need to respond instantly, but the truth is most requests can wait. Want to build stronger boundaries? Start by simply saying, "I'll get back to you on that." Finally, commit to regular periods of unavailability. Being constantly accessible is one of the biggest contributors to being undervalued. Set specific times when you are completely unavailable, whether it's during meals, after 8 p.m. or entire weekends. Then honor those times without exception. Because at the end of the day, life rewards those who value themselves. Respect does not come from constant availability. Time does not wait. The relationships in your life are being shaped right now by the boundaries you set. So the real question is, what will you do next? Will you continue to be available for everything and everyone at any time? Or will you take control, set boundaries, and start creating the relationships you truly deserve? The choice is yours, and that choice more than anything else will determine how others value you and how you value yourself. Thanks for watching.